Today we are going to be taking a look at the artwork behind some of our favorite archetypes, and this time I want to take a look at the Icejade Archetype. When I was looking at these, when I was learning about them, guys, these are already, and I try not to dive too much into them when I have a series. If you're new to the channel, I have a series where we learn about the archetypes as I'm somebody who's a returning player. I try not to look at these, and man, is this archetype beautiful, and I'm excited to talk about it today. Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another video. If you're new here, my name is Kyle. I'm your guy with many YouTube channels. We will start off with two cards over here, that being Icejade Archetype and Icejade Archetype. And we'll start with Archetype. And Archetype over here, Archetype kind of appears translucent, with her entire attire being of a natural spirit or a shaman with, of course, with a water background. And some of these cards are so difficult to look at because it looked like kind of that she was just part of a grassy area, but, you know, underwater at the same time. With the looks of it, along with the other cards, she has to be here underwater, which is, it's just so weird to look at sometimes. But we also have Icejade Archetype, and Archetype is an interesting one because the character here is depicted almost, you know, kind of like seemingly in mid-motion, almost submerged in some crystalline matrix of ice and water. This character is smaller than Archetype, and she's surrounded by shards of ice and glowing blue water droplets, it looks like, but sometimes it looks like it could just be something from otherworldly, you know? It's all strange. It's like there's almost a protective barrier with her, which could, like, honestly explain the effect, but as we're going to go through these cards, there's only so much. I wish that I could, like, expand on some of these a little bit more, but there is just a lot going on. Like I mentioned, something that I have a little bit of an issue with when I'm taking a look at all of these cards is just, okay, are we underwater? Are we in another dimension? That's the type of issue that I have when taking a look at all of these cards, but we continue on with a couple more cards over here, because now we have Icejade Yugioh, and you'll have to forgive me with a couple of these pronunciations over here, okay? Now, with these two cards, taking a look at the first one, this one is like a massive Leviathan-like creature with its body forged almost entirely of, you know, sharpened blue-white ice and water at the same time. But in the center of it, you can see it being controlled by what looks to be a machine. The figure in the middle looks like it could be attached to it, but this, of course, is one of the bigger monsters to talk about in general. But we also have Icejade Creation Kingfisher over here. This character from the archetype of the Icejades takes the form of a bird. This one's a little bit easier to take a look at. Its body a blend of jade, ice, you know, water. The design is fluid, it's light, and it took me honestly a second to figure it out, but when you see the entire picture, this thing, you can't find yourself unseeing it, and just looking at it, man, it is an absolutely beautiful piece of artwork over here. I love taking a look at it, man. This archetype is so cool, but again, it's difficult at the same time sometimes to take a look at both of these cards, but we continue on with the first synchro monster of the archetype. And with this card, it's a little bit different because we take a break from, like, the translucent effect of the card, kind of. You know what I mean? She appears to be just made of pure crystal over here. The bright green eye is really the only thing that remains, which in my opinion is a pretty nice touch, but the rest of her form here, it's more intense. It's more of an intense blinding white and blue. In terms of lore, Ymir is a name from Norse mythology often associated with sea and giants, suggesting a primal oceanic power, like, you know, that could be now merged with the spirit here over here. And I would imagine that, like, a lot of the things that we're taking a look at here are the same, like, the same monster in some of these, which, again, I like the consistency of it. It's just every single time that you take a look at some of these cards, there's more to take a look at because you can find, like, pictures within the crystals at the same time, and there is something in particular that I am excited to talk about. But as we continue on, we have another card to take a look at over here, or another two cards over here, and this is where we get a little bit more complicated with some of the cards, which, again, fascinating, okay? Fascinating. Now, the figure over on the left over here is a little bit different because it's depicted in a moment of deep, you know, deep thought, I would say, or magical focus. Her body's shrouded in layers of translucence, again, you know, water-like silk that flows around her in just, again, a beautiful way with the artwork. It's, you know, more emerald than we see, more turquoise this time, which is kind of reflective in the name. One-handed, the monster here is raised in a gesture of thought, perhaps, you know, signaling the ability to have her own effect, you know, that affects opponents' monsters. The art is visually, like, it does a good job, you know, encapsulating that feeling. She's kind of like the strategist of the archetype. This is one of my favorite pieces of artwork, but I kind of lied because I like this next one a little bit more. It's amazing. This next card over the right over here, because the lower half of this card, like, it's crazy. There's so much, okay? It's dominated by the broken forms of crystal ice and what appears to be some parts of, like, remnants of some smaller Icejade creatures, excuse me, but it's a little bit difficult to tell, honestly. Like, in the background, what you can see is a big dragon, but you can barely see the big dragon at the same time. You know, some parts of this piece are really translucent again, and the more you look, the more you see, and this is incredibly difficult to look at the same time. Like, there's so much going on over here. You can take a look at the regular Icejade monster, which, forgive me, it might be acty, but the more that you look, the more that you find. You can find places, you can find images inside crystals, you can find, like I said, a dragon on the side. It is all insane to take a look at, and I wish I could break down some of these cards for you a little bit more, but there is just so much going on. But we can get a little bit more simple with these next cards over here in Icejade, Tanola, and Tremora. You'll have to forgive me again with some of these pronunciations over here, guys, because we'll start with Icejade Tanola over here, and in this piece of art, it kind of portrays her in an environment that feels simultaneously, and like I said at the beginning of the video, like, you know, submerged and or otherworldly at the same time, you know? The character herself is captured in a graceful, almost like dancer pose. She's surrounded by large, perfectly spherical bubbles in a deep blue environment, almost giving off like a little bit more of a calm vibe to this card, I will say. But for the following card to take a look at over here, the spirit here is kind of seated upon a large globe-like bubble of water, you know, suspended in the depths of wherever the hell this is. Her expression is calm, focused. She is surrounded by several smaller glowing orbs, each one kind of containing some sort of scene within them, as if they're, you know, capturing like either distant light or could be memories of the archetype. The name could suggest, you know, a tremor or shaking, hinting at her power to disrupt or move things, which would make sense with the effect. And we can take a look at some of the effects with the cards, which I might end up pointing to another video for this card. But again, both of these cards, I wish that I could expand upon it a little bit more for you, but all I can say is, man, are some of these cards absolutely beautiful. But we still have a lot to talk about, because now we move on to a field spell card. Already a lot going on over here, okay? With the Icejade Cenote card, okay? The field spell here is a visual, you know, I guess you could say like a visual cornerstone of the archetype's environment. A cenote is, of course, a natural pit or a sinkhole that, you know, exposes groundwater, and the art kind of like captures this sense of a sunken, sacred, you know, pool. The water here is clear, mystical turquoise, reflecting a lot of the Icejade's like primary color, as we've taken a look at throughout this video. And surrounding the pool are more just hanging crystal-like structures. And I'm not sure if this is part of one of the anime shows, to be honest with you, but this could be an understanding of a little bit of the Icejade's lore. It could reveal their power is rooted not in some sort of like, you know, sprawling kingdom, but more of a hidden and isolated place of that I still cannot tell, excuse me, if it's underwater or otherworldly, or if it's just deep in the sea in general. So much of this is so beautiful to take a look at. But we also continue on to another great piece of artwork over here, that being the Icejade Cradle. At the center of this image, of course, is the focus of this image, and it's a huge crystalline sphere that kind of acts just like a cradle, and inside the sphere is likely one of the monsters captured inside of it, and another spirit hovers over to the right of this. But I could be looking a little bit too much into this, but this card could represent some of its effects here, you know, retrieving and moving different Icejade cards around. Again, the thing is, and I don't mean to keep saying the same thing about some of these cards, but the more that you look at some of these cards, the more there is to find. Like, if we spent an entire video breaking down every single little thing about each card, that would be a little bit of a task at hand, I would say. But we continue on over here. We have Icejade's Curse and Icejade's Manifestation. We'll start with Icejade's Curse over here. And the scene here is dominated flat out by a blinding, you know, almost overwhelming bright white light. Now, I'm going to be honest with you guys here, okay? I can't tell what's in front of the Icejade monster here. Maybe another just defeated monster, but one thing that we can see is one of the Icejade spirits over to the right of it, and, you know, glowing on the ground. And the overwhelming feeling over here is, or the overall feeling here is almost like a quiet danger in the continuous spell, I will say. But then we have the opposite, an Icejade Manifestation, and the art here is very different compared to what we have talked about a lot of the times with the Icejade. It's chaotic, it's dramatic, it's as a burst of energy and conflict, capturing a moment where you could say the Icejade fully unleashed their power. We see all the Icejades here coming together. Perhaps it's a little bit to do with the effect, but there's just a ton going on in this card as well over here. And as I've said, the more that you take a look at the card over here, the more there is to find. But we continue on again over to one of my favorite pieces, guys. One of my favorite pieces over here in the Million Century Ice Prison and the Icejade Erosion. Excuse me. I particularly love the Million Century Ice Prison. I think it's a beautiful piece of artwork. And here, it's just a flat-out masterpiece, guys. The image looks to be dominated overall by a silhouette of a beast, perhaps like, maybe one of the big baddies that we took a look at earlier, or if it's just another monster. But we also, of course, and this is the point of it, we see a prison. And the ice here is crisscrossed with like geometric lines and cracks, which make it look magical and unbreakable. The title being Million Century speaks, of course, to the long duration of the seal. The image is not about battle like we've seen, but almost like, just the absolute magical suppression. A metaphor of skipping the opponent's turn, I guess you could say. Capturing the momentum and freezing it for an age. I love it. I absolutely love this piece of art over here, but we also have another great one in Icejade Erosion. The artwork here is set back beneath the water where a flurry of Icejade spirits are swirling around a central, probably corrupted figure. The figure in the center of the attack probably is just another monster from another archetype who I'm not sure about, but the Icejades here are definitely overwhelming whatever the powerful force is, right? The art also does, and I wish we talked about this a little more, the art does, mirror the monster's effect, to be destroyed in a self-sacrificial move to negate any sort of enemy's power. And I think that every single one of these cards, guys, every single one of them has looked phenomenal, guys. But it was probably a little bit more on the quicker side of one of the archetypes. So why don't you continue on with another card art commentary video that we've had right here? Would love to have you over there. Thank you very much for watching, guys. Take care, everybody.